Hello and welcome to the Story Engine podcast. Today on the show, we have Claire Angel. Claire is from France and has a background in international advocacy and now works in helping world changers get their messages on more stages around the world. We're going to learn about her unique approach to PR and craft a story that shows her pathway to becoming the very best at what she does. I hope you enjoy the episode. Let's hand it over to Claire. Claire Angel, welcome to the Story Engine podcast.
Thank you, Kyle, for having me.
I am very excited to have you here. We work in similar but complementary spaces, and I'm excited to showcase your brilliance and learn more about you today.
Thank you.
To introduce yourself to the audience, can you tell us a little bit about who you are and how you're showing up in the world today?
Sure. So the accent probably gave me away already. I'm born and raised in France, and I started my career with the French Foreign Service and actually ended up spending a little over a decade in government. So I like to say that I'm a recovered diplomat. And so work with the French Foreign Service, which brought me to the United States and especially to the city of Atlanta back in 2007. And from then, I was invited to, after a few years, to open the Office of International Affairs for the city of Atlanta. So I left the French Foreign Service and remain in government, but at the municipal level. And I really enjoy, actually, I like to say cities is where hope meets the street. So that was quite an interesting environment to work. But after, again, a decade plus in government, I wanted to see if the grass was greener on the other side and launched my company, Angel Consulting, which is actually in the midst of a rebranding. And we are a purpose-driven PR company. So we support nonprofit and for-profit led by leaders who believe in doing well by doing good. And I'm also a wife, a mom, and really have created a wonderful life in the U.S. Southeast.
Beautiful. I'd love to hear. It's always an interesting process going through a rebranding. And a lot of the times I feel that as entrepreneurs, we grow, we change, and we adapt. And then we need to capture the essence that is the most up to date version of us. Can you tell us a little bit about what's new in the rebranding, what you want to come across more, what you're looking for in this world?
Absolutely. So I gave you the very condensed version of my journey, but maybe helping giving context on my entrepreneurial journey will help you and the audience understand. In between my job at the Mayor's Office of International Affairs and my company, I actually accepted a big media job in New York. So my husband quit his job. My son at the time was 15 months old. I joined this big company, and within 6 weeks, it was close to bankruptcy. The CEO stepped down. Everyone was laid off, and this is really the humbling beginning of Angel Consulting. And so, at the time when I created an LLC overnight, there was very little consideration for branding. In my mind, I was going to freelance until I found my new position. What I didn't know is that within 4 to 5 weeks, it really took off, and I never looked back, and it's the best thing that ever happened to me. But that brand doesn't reflect that. It's my last name. We don't do consulting, we do PR. So everything is wrong about it in many ways. And so this new brand is long overdue because now the company is 7+ years old. It's to move away from me, a person centric organization. And so the new brand name is Elevia, which is a play on a word between elevate and alleviate. And it really showcases what we do. We elevate the name and the voice and the message of purpose driven leaders who alleviate the world's biggest challenges. And so this change in shedding that legacy and that and the beginning of the company that we're not intentional in any way in stepping into a very intentional era for our organization.
I love this. This touches in on what I think my biggest picture mission is, which is becoming more poignant day after day, year after year, with the way I see the world going right now. I believe that uh, within us as humans, we have all of the capacity to solve the problems and the challenges that are facing us right now. And I believe that there are Einsteins, there are Malalas, there are leaders and geniuses and scientists that have yet to uh, get up and start being in their genius self. And it is the responsibility of myself, of people like you, of the leaders that we both work with, to be at their very best to awaken those who need to be awakened so that we can solve the world's problems together. And yeah, I believe this even with being a big user of AI and a big believer in AI, that we need humans tapped into something deeper with a powerful purpose driven vision to be making the moves that they are, to have the visions that they have, and to be empowered at their very best. And if everyone's not doing their part right now, then it's a scary thing. But I believe that if we can awaken people, then we're on the precipice of an age of abundance, of generosity, and goodness for everyone living.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I agree with you 100% as that there are so many people who want to do good in the world, and so much untapped potential, that despite what we may hear in the headlines, sometimes I have immense hope for the future.
Beautiful. Can you tell me? So you've started to share a little bit about the direction that your brand is going now. Can you tell us a little bit about who the ideal people you are that you work with? We know it's like purpose driven. What does that really mean to you?
Right. I think, so we want to work, first and foremost, we see profit in the for profits space as fuel for a higher mission at the end of the day. And so, I run a company. I understand that without profit, a company is not sustainable, but we don't see it as an end in itself. And we want to serve leaders who have the same philosophy, and that are fueled by a mission that is bigger than themselves and their organization, and is geared towards addressing either an environmental or societal challenge. And so that can cover a lot of ground. I think that we haven't established strong parameter about what those causes are, but mostly coming from a place of again, seeing profit as fuel for something bigger than themselves, and in an aspect that will better society. So we work with for-profit that are in the health and wellness space and focusing on longevity, or focusing on overcoming the opioid crisis. We work with B Corps that are focused on social mobility and ensuring that everyone is given a fair share and a fair stake in overall prosperity. And then we work with nonprofits. So I think in nonprofit there is no profit. Like that's they are certainly mission driven, and they are again focused on addressing either an environmental issue or a societal one. And we do that through, I would say, the whole full gamut of PR. Most people see PR through the lens of media placement, and we certainly do that. But we also have a holistic approach to PR, where it's also speaking opportunities, and where you and I are in the intersection of a similar industry of how do you amplify your message by being inviting on stages or podcasts like today. And then you also have your awards and recognition of being on those best in class product or leadership position in certain industry. And the last pillar of PR is what we refer to public affairs, and really being able to be in the right room with the right people. And through those four levers, an organization can increase their visibility and therefore their impact.
What do you think most people, either other PR agencies or maybe the people that come to see you and work with you, what are their misconceptions about PR, or how do they think about or see PR wrong that holds them back from really being successful? Maybe it's just that they think it's just media placement or they overemphasize certain things. How do you see
From
this
the
landscape differently?
from the client perspective,
Yeah.
so I think there's a couple of misconception. First, I think is that a lot of people see PR as a crisis communication tool. We talk about PR veneer, which says a lot about this industry of how it was perceived as a manipulation tool for a long time. And so that's something that as an organization, very, very much shy away from. We're big on accountability. If a client of ours, is faced with an image crisis, our line of advice is always, if you've made any mistake in that process, own it in the storytelling. No one, we all like a good comeback story anyway.
Hmm.
And so I think this idea that PR is a manipulation tool, for me, PR is an amplifier of your message. And so I think PR can be used for good and for bad, depending on how you use it. It's very much like AI. The tool itself is neutral. The way you yield it is really what will make a positive or negative impact. So we're very much in that positive storytelling. And we're very picky in the type of organization we work with, because some people do want to leverage PR to mask bad practices, or hide what seems to be purpose driven activities, and in fact, or greenwashing, whitewashing, or other type of activities. So I think that that's the big, I think, misconception. And others, you're right, is seeing PR through the sole lens of media placement. And then I would say the last part is PR is really the other side of marketing. So understanding that PR and your marketing activities should be somewhat coordinated so that they can support each other and not work in silos. The most success we have is where we're very much integrated in the organization marketing activities, so that we can work together in amplifying the message using marketing tools and PR tools.
Awesome. Tell me about your ideal clients and give us a bit of an overview, and then tell us what you think the biggest problems or challenges that they are currently facing are.
So I think, when we look at the nonprofit side, I would say that an ideal client is a nonprofit that has grown enough and has enough impact that will be able to garner PR. And I would say that, PR can mean many things, right? It can be a local campaign in the local newspaper and radio station, or it can be national. So it's understanding, is the organization moving the needle, and therefore can have this projector placed on them to showcase what they're doing. So for national, I think it's also being in a place. There are so many wonderful organizations out there that are too small to do PR from a budget constraint perspective, quite candidly. So it's having, the right resources to be able to elevate that message nationwide. On the for-profit side, I think that there's not as much of a size distinction. We've worked with solopreneur all the way through publicly traded companies. So really running the gamut when it comes to size and revenue. I think really the ideal persona for us on the for-profit side is that we tend to work better with founder-led organization. I don't know if because the founder is the leader of the company, the passion is more intense when it comes to alleviating that challenge. But historically speaking, in the last 7 years, this has been very much the persona we've worked the most with and the most successfully with.
Nice. Can you tell me about the three biggest challenges that somebody in a founder-led organization would be facing that you would solve for them?
So for us, it's all about increasing visibility, right? So I always start an introductory call with a founder-led organization of what problem are you trying to solve? Because PR can do many things if it's targeted. We've worked with startup that wanted to leverage PR to prepare for their Series A, B, C, and really targeting the investment community.
Mm-hmm.
We've had company established for many many years who wanted to create awareness on the waste industry and educating the consumer on certain areas. So I think that PR can almost solve any problem an organization has that is in terms of visibility. PR is creating a pull strategy for X. So is it fundraising? Is it membership increase from a nonprofit perspective? Is it improving an image that has been tarnished in the past, maybe wrongfully so?
Mm.
So there are many, many ways you can leverage PR. What I always say to prospective clients is that you have to identify what those goals are, because in PR, if you try to talk to everyone, you're really talking to no one. And I'm a big proponent of niche communication. We've had companies that were in the security space, and understanding that the construction company was like really their ideal client. And so even though the founder, we had secured that leader to be on the Inc. 250 female founder list, which is very prestigious, the placement that got her the most lead generation for her business was in construction executive, which you probably have never heard of, doesn't have the circulation of Inc. But because it was incredibly targeted to her buying persona, it yielded the most result. So always doing a lot of fact finding work and identifying those pain points, and they're different from for each organization.
So you started talking about a bit about the pain points that the organization solves, but I'd love to focus more on the symptoms of the problems of lack of visibility within an organization. Some of it is it takes so much energy to put yourself out there and it's not working, which is somewhere along the lines of kind of what you're describing. If they're not being niche, so they've put themselves out on so many platforms, it's taking a ton of energy, but it's not going anywhere. um,
Absolutely.
the image has been tarnished in the past, or they're afraid of having a bad image and how to manage that. Is there, what else could there be as far
Okay, I mean,
as?
a lot of people that come to us have never done PR,
Mhm.
and so it's a complete lack of visibilities. They have and that's the case for newer organization. At the beginning, you tend to find your go-to-market strategy, your right market fit. Then you start generating revenue. It's working, and now you have to pass beyond your Google ads and whatever lever you're using on the marketing side to gain client. And it's like, okay, now we need to increase name recognition. So for a lot of companies, the number one issues is that outside of their small sphere of influence, nobody knows about them. And so it's creating that bedrock of visibility for their brand.
Right.
That goes beyond their own channels, their own website, their own social media, their own activities.
Mhm.
That's the number one issue that we solve. We help people feel heard and seen.
And so you also, what makes you unique and better than most agencies is it's more than just media presence. You're doing speaking opportunities, awards, public affairs. Are there anything else? Is there anything else that you do in your business that you think is better than most of the other PR agencies out there?
I think what we do better is the way we communicate at a higher level. A lot of PR company dabble in the impact space, but they're not exclusive to it. And so they're used to the type of PR that will help boost the sales of a product or services without having that 10,000 feet view on the impact component of things. Most companies that work with us that have had PR experience before, they're after working with just a couple of months with us, they say, for the very first time, we feel like you understand what we're doing, and we feel heard, we feel seen. And I think that it's a very different way to approach the work in the first place. The way we weave our clients are not coming from, let's talk about you and how wonderful the organization is. It's, what problem are you addressing, we and your organization, what solution they are providing. But we come from the problem perspective, the impact perspective, and I think that very few organizations in our industry do that.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. And then the outcomes that we would come for is visibility for the vision you have, not just who you are. I think it, it it makes all marketing and sales easier when
It can be, and going back to the goals, it can be increase in membership, increase in participant engagement in your programming. It can be increase in sale. It can be increase in fundraising, and
probably
it can
better teams, right?
absolutely, it can be employee retention. So whenever our clients say, "How do we measure success?" I always tell them, "We're of course going to give you the usual KPIs for PR. You know, your number of placement and circulation number and all that good stuff." But we really tell them, before you start your PR campaign, just run a benchmark on all your KPIs. And the idea is that in 6 months from now, do that again and see how your numbers are tracking. And while we can't, create a direct correlation between, your PR campaign and employee retention or sales and whatnot, it means that you're doing something right.
Mm-hmm.
And PR is one area, one reason for that.
Great. So I want to hear a bit of your story, and the kind of story that I want to hear. I'm going to read back some of these problems to you, and I'd like your experience of just when I'm reading these things to you, feel where they occur in your body, and then see what kind of stories pop up from there. Sound good?
Sounds good.
All right. So the big problems I hear is being a visionary with an exciting impact that they want to make in the world, but without the visibility, their vision isn't being recognized, they're not being recognized, or you're not being recognized. It takes a tremendous amount of work to make the impact that you want to make, and it seems like so much of your energy is just bleeding out, it's going unheard despite all of the effort. Maybe you're not sure how people will receive you, or you're afraid of being seen wrongly for who you are, and having not having full control over that. So as much as you want to be visible, it's also as scary. Maybe you are seeking investment for something, but uh, it just seems impossible to really get the resources that you need to carry out this vision that you care deeply about. When, Claire, did you feel like this?
Well, first, I think we all have this need to feel seen, right, for who we are. And I think, in PR, there's this idea that we're going to create a beautiful story that will help us accomplish X. And I think that people nowadays more than ever can smell fabrication
Hmm.
a mile away. And so it's this need for radical authenticity. People want to see the real you. And so I think people are afraid of being vulnerable in that way. I've certainly been thinking recently of a way of, showing up in the world as my authentic self. I, I will, give you that vulnerability. Last year was an interesting year for my family because my son was diagnosed on the autistic spectrum, and as a result, so was I. And so I had the choice of not sharing that diagnostic. I had lived 40 plus years as not knowing that I was neurodivergent, and I actually chose to be quite open about it and even wrote about it in the media because I think it's important that we all feel empowered to be our true self. I think, the opposite of belonging is fitting in. And so I didn't want to be part of that. I wanted to be part of a movement I think we're all seeking of, showing up as our true self. And so I always encourage my client to do the same because people respond to authenticity.
Beautiful start. How did you find out? Did a doctor tell you in a conversation? Where did this conversation occur that you first found out that your son was
So
diagnosed?
I was doing the telemedicine appointment for my son and answering questions and minimizing a lot of his trait because I was like, well, I did that as a child, and it doesn't mean. But after 4 or 5 of those, the psychiatric was, well, it's also genetic, and so I was like, well, I'm not sure where you're trying to go there,
Hmm.
and so she kind of planted a seed. And share the link to the adult version of that questionnaire so that I could dive deeper, and that was kind of the domino effect of a few couple of months endeavor about self discovery and ultimately be diagnosed by a health professional for myself.
Do you remember some of the thoughts or judgments that you had about yourself or the fears as you were going through this process and reorienting yourself to who you were?
If it was fear, I have to say that it felt incredibly empowering.
Mm.
In the sense that like things started making sense looking back at my life story and instances of not having many friends growing up and being considered a little peculiar and certain things like all of a sudden there was like an explanation for it and also and it didn't change it doesn't change anything but it helped me validate my life experience. So I remember feeling first thinking like I don't think that's the case, and then the more I educated myself on autism and realizing the broad spectrum that it is, understanding that it fit quite clearly my profile. And no, it was liberating in many ways.
Can you remember a specific moment of feeling this liberation of like I am accepting myself? Of maybe there was a moment in the household or on a vacation or an interaction with somebody where you felt you were yourself and you were seen as yourself.
There are many instances for me. Parenthood has been difficult because I realized how many sensory sensitivity I had that were linked to my
Hmm.
autism that I was very much unaware, but they were amplified through parenting because children are loud.
Yeah.
And so I remember a degree of self-loathing of being so triggered sometimes as a mom and feeling like what kind of you know bad parent I am to having this this strong reaction to my own child's noises. And so after the diagnosis, understanding like that my brain is wired a little differently and giving me myself grace for feeling overwhelmed by those loud noises and being able to make small accommodation that would help me better
Hmm.
cope has been very helpful.
Maybe a moment of like a specific moment of victory in that, or maybe a shout happened, or like on a vacation or anything like that, where you felt you were able to do that, or maybe there's a way. Was there a way when you started being forward with what you had described that you were seen and respected, and you were surprised at how you were received for this, and you felt that you could make a better impact because of you being honest with who you were and sharing your vision?
Oh, many times. I've had so many conversations with fellow entrepreneurs in particular who, by being very forthcoming about my own neurodivergence, felt free enough to have the same response. I had someone recently who, told me that she was bipolar, another person who had manic episode, things that we try to hide behind the success, and that is considered taboo, and feeling this incredible sense of freedom of redefining what success look like, and we don't have to pretend to be someone else, and it doesn't take away our own journey and our own definition of success. I've had many of those instances just in the last 12 months, and it feels incredible to gift that to someone else, to give them the opportunity to express their own story and their own reality.
Beautiful. Would you like to hear your story?
Sure.
There are so many times when becoming yourself and being yourself is one of the hardest things to do. I can remember being on a telemedicine appointment, sitting with my child, wanting to be the best mom that I could, and sometimes having doubts and challenges about. I can remember filling out this questionnaire about my child's behaviors with my doctor, a lot of the times writing off the things that they were doing, the things that I was seeing and noticing, because a lot of the times it was the same thing that was happening to me. I can remember my doctor saying, well, your son is on the autistic spectrum, and there's a good chance that you are too. And I can remember at first kind of pulling back, looking back on decades of my life and decisions which I thought were normal things, or maybe that I was just strange or there was something wrong with me. And now seeing it in a totally new context, I started to wonder how I would be seen by others in this. Should I share this part of me? I had a vision of making this world better, of supporting those and leaders with impact, and I had been doing it for a long time. And now, will this tarnish my image? Maybe wrongfully so, because it takes so much energy to put yourself out there, to share who you are, to be in the spotlight. And it seems like one wrong move, wrong step, when you are trying to be a leader to make a difference in the world, can send everything in a different direction. And I can remember sitting there deciding if I wanted to keep this a secret, if I wanted to hide what my son was going through, or if I wanted to showcase and share who I was and what I was doing and what I was valuing. I saw this as an opportunity, just like the opportunity that I've created and shared with many of my clients, to be a part of a movement. And I started being open about it, sharing it. And I realized that this was some of the same things that I was doing within my work. It's not just about media placement or finding speaking opportunities, but being who you were. And not just who you were, but combining that with a vision for the better world that you knew was there, that you knew was possible, that you wanted to be a part of. I saw showing myself as a part of my process for communicating on a higher level, not just about selling more products or being more seen or some of the basic KPIs that you see in so many PR firms, but about being part of a solution for a better world. And I can remember after showing who I was and combining that with my vision and sharing that in a way for the vision of the better world that I wanted, that people fellow entrepreneurs, fellow leaders started coming up to me. It was easier to grow my business and have employees and work with the people I was working with. Getting speaking opportunities and financing and all of these things started becoming simpler and more easy by being forthcoming about who I was. Others started sharing their stories of how they tried to hide behind being successful. And I realized that this is what freedom really looks like, of being able to be myself and use that as a strength, not being somebody else. And this is exactly the opportunity that I give to everyone I work with. You see, for me, it was this particular diagnosis. But for you, it doesn't have to be a medical thing. There's all kinds of ways that we don't fit in as entrepreneurs. But what's most important is not who we are or what we're dealing with, but it's the vision that we have and the world that we want to create that's better. And if we can share and showcase who we are as a way to carry out that vision for a better place, then we can leave the world better for everyone, for our children, and for those that we want to make an impact with. And that's what I'm here to teach you about and tell you about today.
Well done. Wow. It's quite a humbling experience to hear your own story reflected back to you
Right.
by someone else. Thank you for this gift.
Absolutely. Thank you for being such a great player in this game and a leader in storytelling yourself. I'm honored to have shared this space with you. Claire, do you have any closing thoughts for us? And where can we go to learn more about you?
No, just very humbled and grateful for the opportunity to benefit from your genius, Kyle. And as I mentioned, we're in a rebranding, so it's probably just easier to find me on LinkedIn because our website and everything will be changed very, very soon to our new Olivia brand. But looking forward to connecting with your community and continuing the dialogue offline.
Claire, thank you so much for joining us today on the Story Engine podcast.
Thank you.